G'day ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on the ecological dynamics and constraints-led approach for grappling. My name is Sam Fields, I am your host on my journey. So again, thank you very much for joining me. Just wanted to do a quick recap. I'm going on holidays this week, but I wanted to do a quick recap of today's lesson because it was actually really cool. Like, I'm stoked with how it turned out. Essentially, we had a fairly new student. He's actually a student of a previous student of a friend of mine, Carlos Bazano, or Carlos Cola. Carlos is a fifth degree, I think, fifth degree black belt under Pedro Sawyer in the Hicks and Gracie system. But yeah, so good friend of mine. Anyway, Will is actually, so he's on the screen there. Will is a friend of Aaron's as well, so yeah, it's really good to have Will along, and having Ridwaan back from his holiday in NZ, seeing his family. So really cool lesson today, because it was the first one that Will had with me. So what I explained, and I did fairly well in explaining why and what we would be going through, and the reasoning behind it. So gave him a quick understanding of ecological, or introduction, maybe not an understanding, but introduction to ecological dynamics and the constraints-led approach, why it works, and you know, why I particularly use it, and why I structure my classes differently to, say, Aaron's, who Will has experienced as an instruction before. So yeah, from my perspective, it was a really good lesson. Initially, I got in. I didn't really think of it too much last night, but I ended up waking up fairly early. So when I wake up early, I'm in early, which means I'm able to do more, more planning, which is awesome. I love it. So starting off, what I was going to do, thinking that it just would be maybe Ridwaan and potentially Jaden. So we've been doing the touch shoulders and touch navel sort of game to start off with. So what I was going to do was touch the thighs with the toes. So just touch them, like, and that was it. And then the second the second part was check. So if you checked the toes with any part of the shin or the knee, then it was a win for the person who's checking. But we actually threw that out the window, because the way I figured with having Will there, being that he's fairly new, is that I would stick to less sort of striking principles and more grappling. So ended up doing the basically chest behind the arms. People are getting quite good at that, and good at defending, so it is quite difficult at this point in time. Something that was interesting that Will said about the touch navel, touch shoulders game, is that it was much different from boxing, which I thought was quite interesting, because he's like, yeah, because you close distance in some cases, and I was like, okay, like that was an interesting insight. He reckons he'd done a bit of boxing, so he was referring to the fact that you could kind of back away, but from my perspective, and I'm I would say that you'd still, if you're on the outside of someone's reach, and I found with him, because he's taller and longer, I found he was able to kind of stay at his distance that he needed to touch my shoulder. He had that distance, down, because he knew that I had to get in to touch, and then and same with Ridwaan. Ridwaan needed to be inside, and so Ridwaan's a lot more mobile because he has to be in and then out, because otherwise he's going to get touched. So that was pretty cool. Then we did a butterfly seated guard, and it was just trying to secure one arm, and I think I really didn't plan this one as good as I could have. We just essentially was trying to. I was trying to say, like, secure an arm whichever way. So whether it be like over the shoulder, or hugging it, or arm drag, or whatever, and it just and then the person on top was just trying to get people flat on the back, and it had benefit, but it was just very sloppy. Like, I had to put in a further constraint on Ridwaan, because he kind of immediately passed the guard and went into side control and put me on my back that way, and it was like, and he showed two things when he did this. He showed that being there needs to be some more specific constraints, and secondly that and it was good because I picked it up, was that he was looking at it like, oh yeah, well, I passed you guard and I put you on your back, and now you're adding in another constraint. And I'm like, all right, yeah, look, you did the right thing. What the reason for this is, I'm actually, and I said the reason why I'm putting in this extra constraint is because this is for the person on the bottom. That's what this exercise is more, and then that led to a greater conversation around winning versus achieving the goal, and sort of saying, look, there's points in time with a constraint-led approach where you're going to get tapped repeatedly. So it's getting comfortable with that loss, or the concept of loss. But up until then, both these guys were very happy, so anyway, we got to the side control, so they had some good insights as well. One thing that Will kept on doing was getting this arm kind of up and over here, which, if I had a little bit more time... Oh, wait, wrong. Let's just start.
So with this game, what we're looking to achieve is, person on top is doing a hard crossface, started with an underhook. In this case, the arm here has been pushed. He's put it over his own, so that's where we started. The goal for the person on the bottom is to get that, get this underhook back, and the hand underneath the chin, and or put the top guys back, just like that. Beautiful. Put the top guys back on the ground.
Alright, so initially what the goal was for side control was basically he had full underhook with a crossface, so very, very tight on top. So underhook, crossface, and the person on top was just looking to hold it, and then the person on the bottom, because they had this, the underhook, and the arm on it, so that their head was here, they had to get their elbow back to their side, but also their arm underneath, anywhere underneath the person's chin. Alright, the person on top's chin. So initially, it was kind of like that, making a little bit of space in order to get it back, and they did quite well with it. And then I added in the extra thing of or putting them on their back. Alright, so and what this gave Ridwaan particularly a revelation, that he was able to he was able to make more space by threatening that. So the affordance that I wanted to give here was that if someone's locking down really, really hard, then they're probably not going to post out, which means that they are open to that bridge and roll where you bridge them up and then over, right? And put them on their back. And Will did this twice. He did it to me, and he did it to Ridwaan. So he, really took that opportunity for that action and put it into play. So I was very, very happy with that. The other thing I was really happy with was after I'd explained a whole heap of my the reasoning behind why I'm doing ecological dynamics approach to this and the constraints-led approach and blah blah blah, is Will was able to articulate in a simple manner back to me what I was looking to achieve, and from his perspective, what he got out of it, which is exactly what I wanted him to get out of it. And I was it was such a good feeling. So I feel like a couple of things. One, I'm understanding it better, and I'm looking forward to my little holiday at the moment, because I'm going to read through this, the dynamics of skill acquisition. I'm going to read through that. I'm going to spend a bit more time just sort of mulling over the terminology and that sort of thing, but understanding the concept much better has allowed me to explain it better, which has allowed me to allowed these guys to reflect back what and get the most out of it. I think that's the when someone doesn't have buy-in, I think they don't get the maximum benefit, because they're like, well, they're always looking for the well, but and then the one of the last things that I'll refer to is I've started to what I want is the guys to be thinking about when they're in a flow state. So identifying when they're in a flow state versus, I think that's probably a better idea. Identifying when they're in a flow state versus when they're in a, the man upstairs is controlling the levers. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this, the ecological dynamics and constraints-led approach to grappling. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.